All right, guys, today I got my tea with me and I got my water with me, but I wanted to address why everyone is deciding to remain single, specifically the fellas, right? So I'm gonna go into it. It's something I've been going through as well, and I know a lot of other people are going through it. That's the only reason I'm talking about it. And I know there's some people out there that are like, oh my gosh, you guys are just black pill. Like, you guys need to be more positive about women. You need to be more positive about this, about that. And you really got to look at the landscape of things right now. Like, you got to be realistic, but also look at the landscape, right? So the problem I see is that dudes, right, are expecting, like, you know, women to lower their standards and just go back to the old traditional style of, you know, the 1950s, right? Obviously, we're not in the 1950s. That's not going to happen. That's like if you told everyone to just become a factory worker like it's the 1950s. Times change, things change, right? And social media has drastically changed dating. It has changed the dating market so significantly. It's globalized dating. It's raised everybody's standards, and it's standards that they're not going to drop, right? And what you end up seeing is a lot of dudes feel discouraged because obviously if you're not in the top 10%, the top 5%, whatever the numbers say, if you're not like getting DMs, you're not getting a lot of attention on social media, first of all, you're not going to feel like you're seen. Second of all, you're not going to know all the ins and outs of social media, basically. Like, a lot of people don't know the ins and outs. A lot of people don't know social media is the #1 thing used for cheating. And they think like there's, you know, they think like a certain girl's like an angel when they might have hit me up or my homeboy up and, you know, put like, hey daddy or some shit like that. Like, seriously, this has happened before. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Yeah, social media is globalized dating. So a lot of men expect women to go back to the old style, and they're not. They're starting to make their own money, so they feel like more independent. Feminism is affecting, you know, mindsets as well. And when you are influenced by a certain mindset, that is going to affect how you act, obviously. So unless you get rid of that mindset, you're not going to be able to actually, you know, have people change behaviors. If you don't change a culture, you don't change a mindset, you don't change what's being pushed, then how can you change someone's mindset, right? And another thing is that we've noticed over time that, like, a lot of women are giving their best years to, like, you know, what they call Chad and Tyrone's, but they're just giving their best years to like whatever, right? Because when I was in a college town, you know, it was like all the young chicks were just like sleeping around with a lot of different dudes. You know, a lot of dudes end up being your Eskimo bro. Like, there's just a lot of that going on. And then as they get older, they realize, like, hey, all of that fun, that's not what I want to do. I want to settle down. Not knowing that, you know, all those situations, all those, you know, connections that they made affect them long term. And also it makes it harder for them to, you know, pair bond and stuff like that. But forget that. It just makes it harder for people to be like, hey, like, aren't you that girl that got the train ran on her? You know, things like that. Like, guys are very protective of who they settle down with. And, you know, women want someone who's accomplished, right? So with the globalized dating market, it's like the guys who, like, are accomplished are literally getting the pick of the litter. So because they're getting the pick of the litter, they're like, why would I settle down? And then the women are all wanting those guys and not wanting anyone else because they don't want to lower their standards. So what does that create? That creates a perfect storm for the situation that we have right now, guys. Obviously, a lot of dudes are like, whoa, her standards are way too high. I don't think she's worth that. And she's like, well, I smashed someone that looked like that, you know, 10 years ago. So that's my new standard. So it's creating a disconnect. And there's also the grass is greener mentality. I've already talked about that in a previous video. The grass is greener. Like, every time you get in an argument, you're like, well, I could just do this. I could do that. And then there's that Chris Brown concert of that girl literally leaving someone who dedicated his life to her, got engaged, literally leaving or not going to the engagement party in order to go to the Chris Brown concert. And Chris Brown will never pay her attention. Chris Brown will never, ever, ever go home with her, pay her any more mind than reading that sign. So just to get her sign read, she paid for the concert, drove over there, and literally got rid of a long-term relationship that she could have had, you know, stability, peace, financial stability, potentially as well. And then there's that other girl that I saw. She paid $1,100 to get a picture with Chris Brown, and her boyfriend found out and then obviously broke up with her. It's just the census around kind of like, I would say in the past like 6 years especially, it's been a lot of like, kill all men, I hate all men, men are bad. And if you say any of that stuff about women, obviously you'll get canceled. But there's been a lot of that sentiment going around. And of course it affects the women, but it affects the guys too. The guys are like, damn, we're hated, we're hated, we're hated. And you feel like the enemy, right? And then the women are just like kind of repeating what they hear. They don't all mean it, but they just repeat what they hear. And it's like, a lot of the times you'll see like an 18, 19-year-old chick being like, I hate all men, men aren't shit. And they don't really know that. That's just what they've heard and what they've seen all over TV. So that sentiment's being pushed. And when you say something enough, it becomes reality. That's why people do affirmations in the first place. Like, why do you think people do affirmations like, I am strong, I am strong, I am strong? Because eventually, you know, it'll manifest, especially if your actions follow. But if you're saying it, it's affecting your subconscious. So a lot of these things that are being pushed by the media is affecting subconsciouses of, you know, young women, young men. Young men feel discouraged because it's like, your 20s are the hardest time of all time. I'm currently still going through them. You're like from 18 to 25 is like the roughest time for young dudes. And now as young dudes, since with the access of social media, obviously women from 18 to 25 could literally date whoever they want. Like, they have a huge selection of who to date. So 18 to 25-year-old men are not only going through the hardest time, they're seeing all this propaganda that's saying, oh, men aren't shit, men are useless, you're weak, you suck, I don't want you. And they're getting rejected by all their peers, and their peers are like going on boats. Like, you know, women that are like 18 to 25 are always going on yachts. They're getting flown out. They're going different places. They're going to basketball games. Their Instagram looks crazy. You know, they're getting payments. They might be doing OnlyFans. I've seen some young chicks, like 19-year-olds doing OnlyFans, making like $20K a month. And like their counterparts are just some dude who's like, should I go to welding school or should I go to get my bachelor's? You know what I mean? So it's very discouraging for young men as well. So this creates a divide and a lot of confusion. And we are in a new time, guys. Like I said, social media globalized dating. It's not going to be like it is in the 1950s. So men expecting it to be like it was in the 1950s is just not going to happen. Obviously, women are already ahead of the game. They don't expect it to be like that. But there's just a lot of opportunities that I've seen over time. Like, I experienced firsthand, like, what just having some attention on social media or some clout on social media could do. That changed my mind on dating overall, because I was like, wait, why is this girl leaving her boyfriend for me? And why is this chick leaving her boyfriend for me? Why is this chick married but putting hard eyes? Why was I with this chick last night and now I find out that she has a man? You know what I mean? So like, a lot of that stuff happened over and over and over again. And I was like, yeah, maybe it's just me. Then all my homeboys are like, yeah, this shit happened to me too. And I was like, maybe it's just us. And I talked to some other homeboy that's been all over the world and same thing. So it's like, a lot of that sentiment's been going around. People are starting to be more aware though. Like, the divorce rates are obviously horrible. Most of it's initiated by women. So those stats being pushed, you know, through Generation Z through TikTok is giving us more knowledge. Well, I'm not Generation Z, but it's giving them more knowledge, so they're aware, so they're more hesitant. So there's a lot of distrust in the dating market. A lot of people say there's P in the dating market. There's a lot of distrust from both sides, right? Because a lot of women who have been able to date higher value men, you know, at younger ages and things like that, or they dated a lot of different Chads and Tyrones, they've kind of been scarred because none of those people committed. So now they got older, they're like, I want a commitment. And then the dudes are kind of like knowing that, like, well, I want someone who, like, I'm, you know, her first, to take her to this place or to take her to that place. I don't want someone who's been to like 30 different locations and dated like 100 dudes, you know. So yeah, there's just a lot of disconnect. I'm not saying I know the solution, because obviously I don't. I've seen healthy relationships pretty much my whole life, but obviously what's going on right now is pretty toxic. So it makes sense if you're like staying out of it, because that's exactly what I'm doing. In this video, the title, Why Young Men Are Staying Single, I'm staying out of it because it's a lot of toxicity and it's a lot of inflation as well. Because it's like, I did, like, for example, some chicks try to spin the block on me. Like, I had a couple of chicks try to spin the block on me, and it's like, I already, you know, did everything with them. And then now when they try to spin the block, they're like, oh, you should take me out on a date. I'm like, I'm not going to take you out on a date. Like, it's a waste of my time. It's going out of my way. You're the one that hit me up, you know, things like that. It's just like, I'm not going to waste my time and my energy for something that won't even last. And think about all the people that you've dated, spent time with, and you don't even contact them on a daily basis anymore. You can't get that time back. So it's a wasted investment, right? Maybe you learned from it, maybe you didn't. But yeah, that's basically my opinion. I don't know if people are gonna, you know, resonate with that or hate what I said, but it's my opinion.